everybody. Welcome into another edition of Talk About Watches Live. My name is Tim, and tonight I would imagine has to be one of the more anticipated episodes because it is the launch, or more accurately, the relaunch of Renato. And here's what sets this one apart. Renato is now a part of the XOS group, and that means it has joined Watchstar, it has joined Exoskeleton, and is being shepherded by somebody who really understands the power and the significance of a boutique build. So what you're going to see tonight is components, if you will, that were actually taken from years ago. Obviously, that's important to a lot of you guys that appreciate what was done, well, years ago by Renato, right? So you've got those components, but they've all been assembled within the last couple of months under the new supervision. So basically, it's the best of all worlds. Now, if you followed us via email or social media, you already know that one of the big events of the night is going to be that must-own with the Swissetta 2824. That is now active. For those of you who know what I'm referring to, you should already be over there and getting that right now because it really is a must-own. Otherwise, we'll be getting to that, of course, in the next few minutes, along with everything else, including, for example, the Vulcan that I'm wearing. I love this hot green, by the way. This is very cool on shark skin. This, along with other pieces, we'll be delving into. But first, a quick reminder for those of you who haven't yet joined us via the email list, you really should. We're not going to spam you. We don't like spam either. But if you're on the email list, and this is a great example, right? I just referred to that 2824. Those guys had a several-hour head start. And you can have these advantages too. Again, we're not spamming you. So just go to talkaboutwatches.com. Pretty much on any page, you're going to see an invite. Just hit that, sign up, and you're good to go. And here's another reason. You can then participate in the closed group on Facebook. And that group gets notice ahead of everybody, even the general email list. So when you see so many of the 2824s already gone in that must-own offer tonight, that group is responsible for a lot of that. And again, once you're on the email list, you can participate there, plus obviously post the images and get into discussions and so on. So it's a great place to be. Also, speaking of social media, a reminder that we support a lot of the platforms. Now, obviously, at the moment, you're watching us either via Facebook Live or via YouTube Live. But in addition to that, we support Twitter, we support Instagram, and Google+. So pick your favorite platforms and join us over there. All of this is free from us, by the way. We'd love to have you along for the ride. A quick request, if we may. If you love what we do, please share this around. It'll just take you a few moments. Just put it on all your social media platforms. We'd really appreciate your help in getting the word out. And it's something that would mean really the world to us as we continue to grow Talk About Watches for you guys. And speaking of which, notice the payment programs, not the least of which is PayPal credit. And that means that once you qualify, you have 6 months with no interest, no payment, and nothing down. And just pay that out by the due date, and there's no interest of any kind. It's a way, and let's take a look tonight at some of the Renatos, to take these pieces and really make them extra affordable. So some great options for you guys. More on the way, incidentally. So again, check the email and social media for our updates as we continue to grow TAW pretty much by the day. All right, enough talk. Let's get into it, and we're going to leap into the relaunch of the Renato brand. Okay, so let's get into it. And the first piece we're going to look at tonight is the Beast. And keep in mind that everything that you're going to see tonight is going to have a very aggressive discount to celebrate the relaunch, I guess it's fair to say, of Renato. So I guess that is a great place to start as we delve into this example. Now, this one has a list of $1,295. It does ship with an extra strap, which we're going to get into here in a second. You guys own this one outright at just $299, and again, that is with shipping included. Now, this one, as you take a look at it, it really reflects that aggressive architecture, I guess it's fair to say, that Renato is so very famous for. And one of the first things I want to show you guys is how generous this is. This is a 45 millimeter, and it does not include the crown. So all in, you're probably the better part of 50. This is very heavy, but yet balanced on the wrist, which is cool. But one of the things I want to show you right away is the solid link bracelet is very generous. I wear pretty much an 8, and I'm comfortable in saying up to a 9. You might even be able to get larger than that, but I'm going to hedge the bet and say 9 or below. So most of you aren't going to need anything along the lines of additional links. You're just going to remove some of these, obviously. By the way, you will need a toolkit for that, and if you don't have a toolkit, you can pick one up very affordably over on talkaboutwatches.com. Frankly, it's one of the best deals on a toolkit that's out there. Now, another thing I want to show you guys right away is how this was put together with a, it wasn't into my recollection the early generation of Renato, but came along a bit later, and that is how you can change out a bracelet and a strap. By the way, notice the dual deployment clasp that this has, which is pretty cool. Okay, this has, when you first look at it, a heavy bolt system that attaches at the lug area for the solid length bracelet, which makes sense, right? Because it's a very heavy build. But it's more than that. This actually becomes a bit of a little mechanical marvel in and of itself, because when you press in on both at the same time, it actually releases. And of course, you'll find the same over here. In other words, this is going to come apart. Now, since I have to wear shades right now, I'm not going to be doing this, but basically in normal lighting, you would just press this and this comes apart. And then here's what you're going to do. You're going to take the strap, and again, you're going to get this included at no additional charge. And if you'll notice, there is the custom area that slides into the lug. So you're just going to let this go, and then you slide this in. Now, this is the buckle side, so as a rule, it would be on the 12. I guess it comes down to personal choice, but most people elect to put buckle side to the 12. And that's going to give you this sort of a look, as you can see here, I hope. And then you do it to the other side, and you're good. In other words, there are no tools required whatsoever to change this out. Now, I mentioned earlier this is heavy, and indeed, you guys will appreciate that. I know a lot of you guys like the larger, heavier watches. Inside of this, you're going to find the Ronda 5030D. That, of course, is a rock-solid, very accurate quartz chronograph. You should get, I would think, 2 to 3 years of life in normal use on that movement, no problem at all. The crystal that's used is a sapphire-coated mineral, so you're going to get the rugged nature, I guess it's fair to say, of the mineral, but the scratch resistance improvement by adding that sapphire-coated. It is also anti-reflective coated too, by the way, so it really reduces the glare from that aspect. The crown is screw down. The function pushers are not. They are actually modeled somewhat after, I guess, a piston system, if that makes any sense, but you definitely have the screw down crown going on in the center, which leads me to water resistance. This is going to be 30 atmosphere water resistance, which for those of you who don't know, means that this particular build is 50% beyond dive watch resistance, which is 200 meters. So you've got a 300 meter water resistance. You know, earlier I mentioned the 45 millimeter. The thickness is also significant, 17 millimeter thickness. So again, for those of you who like that heavier approach, this is going to be ideal. 26 millimeter across as far as the bracelet and the strap are concerned. Now, when you look at the back of this, you're going to see it's from, of course, the Beast collection. The fact that it's handmade, and all of these are certainly important. You're also going to see the 30 atmospheres reflected there as well. And that's something that Renato has done over the years that I've really appreciated, is that they will often lay out across the back of their watches. They lay out the weight and how it was built and what the water resistance is and so on and so forth. You'll also note that this is a limited production, and there are only, believe it or not, 35 of this specific all-black option made. By the way, superluminova used on both markers and hands, and that's really the only thing that isn't black across the dial. Well, that's not exactly true. You're also going to get some of the silver applique that's been done on the hands and the subdials. Incidentally, excuse me, incidentally, the dial in this is also multi-layered. In the very center, you've got a texture that resembles a carbon fiber. I don't believe it is actually carbon fiber, but it's a really sleek texture that goes on, and it's actually almost has a lacquered finish, so it really glints in the light, which is a very cool, substantial amount of lume that goes on, and a very nice, in fact, I don't know if you can even hear this. I'm just moving this in the background, but it's a very smooth 120 click unidirectional bezel, which again hails obviously to the dive watch reference. The weight of this, I don't exactly have it in grams, but I can tell you that it weighs well over 10 ounces. So yeah, this is going to be a significant presence on the wrist. And to get ready to move on, we'll wrap this up quickly. Once again, the list on this is $1,295, and you guys are able to pick this one up at just $299. And remember, let's take that part again. Again, price-wise, this is $1,295. That's list. You guys are picking this up through TAW for just $299, and included with that will be the shipping. And also, you are getting the custom strap, which, by the way, is a very nice silicone strap. It's got a really cool texture on it. Renato, of course, known for the high-end touches throughout their builds historically. I'm sure many of you are aware of that. Okay, so that is the Beast, or how they refer to it specifically is the Black Beast while it lasts. All right, that stated, let's move to the next example for you guys. So next up, we're going to take a look at the Retrograde. One of the first things I'll point out is, as I'm wearing it here, you can see again, this is going to be a fairly large presence on the wrist. Very cool single deployant clasp on this specific model. And again, myself wearing about an 8, I wouldn't go quite for a 9, but I'd say at least 8.5, maybe 8 3/4, depending on how tight you like to wear your strap. would work. 9 might be pushing it, so just kind of know that. Really sharp dress look on the wrist, and I can tell you right now, there's 2 things about this one you'll need to know up front. If you want the least expensive option in this premiere of the Renato, this is the one you want. And also, if you're looking for a dress watch, where Renato is really celebrating the art of the dress watch again, this is going to be the one that you want. So let's delve into this one for a bit in greater detail. List on this is $1,195. Renato refers to it specifically as the Retrograde CP5. You own it at just $229 and is tradition here with TAW, shipping included on that. All right, so to delve into it, BuildWatch has already talked about. This is definitely Renato's significant dive, I guess it's fair to say, into the dress watch. 43 millimeters, so that's actually a little large for a classic dress watch, but again, so many in the audience want the larger look, right? And this is going to deliver at 43 millimeter, but still fairly close to the wrist, as you can see, so going under cuffs and so on. Again, the purview of the dress watch is not going to be an issue whatsoever with that. In fact, when you consider it, you've got the 43 millimeter, but the case is 11 millimeters in height. So it still has some heft, but it allows, as I mentioned, for the cuffs and so on. The band, they actually estimate as a company 9 inches. Again, having worn it myself, I'm saying maybe, but just know that. But it's 21 millimeters across at the lug area, and a very nice leather is what it's built from. Now, the Retrograde itself is driven by a brand a lot of you guys know, and that would be Ronda. So specifically, it is the Swiss Ronda, say this correctly, Swiss Ronda Retrograde 7004.N. So you've got a rock solid quartz movement. Again, you should expect at least 3 years, maybe more out of that with normal use, and since it's not a chronograph, you're pretty much going to set and forget this. Now, the Retrograde has a couple of features on this that I think are really cool. The Retrograde itself is referring to the day of the week, and that is noticed at the 12 along with the brand Renato specifically, so beginning on Monday to the left, finishing obviously with Sunday to the right. At the 6 o'clock, you've got your second hand, but also please note you've got a double rotor big date complication, which again, coming back to Ronda, it's something over the years they've certainly been known for, so you've got that as an advantage as well. Most of this is done in polished 316L white steel, but you're going to see some addition of rose gold, and specifically on the hands and the applied markers. And it's a combination of dot markers and stick markers on this particular build, and those really sharp. Beautiful, warm, rich rose gold applied, and of course against that somewhat polished, but not mirror finished, in the black that is the dial. Just it speaks to elegance, I guess is the best way I can describe it. It's elegant. There's a real sense of expense, which of course is part of the fun of a dress watch. Not that this actually, well, you could argue for $1,200 maybe, but from $1,195 to get this down as we have to $229, that is very cool. The build itself, all in 316L surgical grade steel, and again at $229 while they last, courtesy of TAW. So again, if you're looking for the dress watch, this is the one you want. And also, if you're looking for the least expensive of tonight's presentation, the premiere of Renato, again, this is going to be the one that you want. And if you haven't yet collected Renato, frankly, you've been missing out. And I have these now to be assembled with the importance of the boutique being respected and represented. This is very cool. Now, based on the response that we've had with our email and our promotions that have been going on with social media, the two that are most, shall we say, anticipated tonight is the Vulcan, which we're going to get to next, and then we're going to wrap things up with the 2824. So let's leap next into the Vulcan, and this is one you're really going to want to check out. This one is majorly cool, 46 millimeter. And Renato tells me that this is a 14-piece assembled case. This is absolutely beautiful. Claw de Paris texture across the green dial. And I guess we should start by talking about how this fits. This is a very generous strap. And by the way, the strap on this is genuine shark. Which a lot of you guys know, especially with the sport motif, goes to a lot of the high-end builds across the watch market. A lot of pieces, very nice ones, by the way, that go into the thousands, use the shark skin. And Renato has chosen a very nice, supple shark skin to go with this. It's a black, and that contrasts wonderfully against the polished steel that is the case, all 316L steel construction, again, 14-piece, and then that really bright green. Now, the green in the dial, Cloud of Paris texture, as I mentioned, and also it has, I'll put it this way, if it's not a lacquer finish, and I couldn't confirm that, but if it's not, it really looks like it. It's just beautiful high-end across the board. So to delve into some detail, inside of this is the ETA G10 quartz chronograph. So you're going to the Swiss ETA company, which for those of you who don't know is one of the arguably the most important company building watch movements today. And this does give you the chronograph. I would say depending on use, 3 to 5 years out of this before battery change is not going to be a problem at all. I know a lot of you guys prefer sapphire, and not all of the new models coming out have it, but this one does. This actually has the luxury and the elegance that is synonymous with sapphire. And this has also been anti-reflective coated, so for those of you who are fans of sapphire, you've got to love that that has been included. And by the way, we should probably talk price on this if we haven't yet. This is $12.95 list, $1,295, but $249 while they last. And I say while they last because a lot of these, if not all of them, in the latest generation are done either in limited edition or limited production. And if you take a look at this piece, as with most of them on the back, you're going to see that here again, we're talking about the very first few people basically get it, and then everyone else is going to miss out. And I think that's part of the allure, for lack of a better word, on what's being brought by the latest builds. And I can't even see the latest builds, what Renato has been doing historically for a while. For example, among the things in the back, you're going to see 30-meter water resistance, the fact this is a hand set back with screws on the corners, even though given the shape, it's more of a, if you don't know the Vulcan, it's kind of their contemporary homage to the original 1950s television shape, if that makes sense. 168 grams of 316L steel has been utilized, genuine shark skin in the strap, and this strap is absolutely gorgeous, as is the buckle. And you probably noticed I don't refer to buckles very often as gorgeous, but this one is. It's its own little mechanical marvel. It actually has the extreme detail that Renato is famous for, with decoration literally both inside and out. It's very easy to set up. So here again, we're talking about the complexity of the 14-piece case combined with sapphire, combined with the G10. And then, of course, you get to the dial. Now, I mentioned earlier that it's a chronograph. And when you look at the dial on this, what's so cool about it, other than this color, and I just love this loud green color, is that the dial, first of all, if it's not a lacquer finish, they've really found another way to duplicate that look, but I suspect it is actually a lacquer finish. Either way, it's very good. All custom hands, if you notice the detail in the subdials, for example. But the halos that make the subdials, they're actually separately created and applied. The screws that do that become part of the design. Quick set date at the 4. Now you add this up into the custom build that is the Vulcan case, 14-piece, custom sapphire crystal. This is an absolutely remarkable build, finishing out again tested to 300-meter water resistance. Again, the list on this piece is $1,295, but you guys are going to be checking this out courtesy of TAW. And again, I have to stress here, it's while they last, but from $1,295, you guys can check this out at just $249. And I think you'll agree, there's a lot to love with this piece. If you like exotic straps, it's here. Sapphire's here. ETA, it's here. The accuracy, the complexity of the case build, the sculpting of the case, and so on. And as I mentioned earlier, the decoration and even the mechanics that create the single deployant clasp. This is one of the reasons why it's so exciting to see some of the pieces from years ago being brought up and put together here in the last couple of months. So do enjoy this while it lasts. All right, I'm going to set this aside because we're about to get to the piece that so many of you want to see, and that is the must-own, that is the 2824. Let's check that out. Many of you who know me historically know that I don't call things a must-own unless I truly believe that they are, and this one is. So one of the first things I want to do, other than initially show you the size, and I'll come back to that in just a second, is I want to get into price specifically. This piece lists for $1,795. You guys are getting this, and I need to emphasize this. It's while it lasts, and there's no rain checks on this. $299. Obviously, a big chunk of these are gone because, of course, those of you that participate in the closed Facebook group and those of you who get on our email, obviously been taking advantage of this. But this is what's going on, guys. $1,795 down to $299. This, of course, is the TRex, and it's simply called the TRex 2824 by me. I think Renato has called this the Q150, for those of you who are following such things. So let's talk about the case and the build and so on, and a little bit about the movement, which is very important, of course, the Swiss Auto Automatic 2824. This is a big watch. This is 50 millimeters, and it is 16 millimeters thick. So a lot of you guys want those big, heavy powerhouse watches on the wrist, right? As you can see, this one absolutely delivers, and it's one of the early points I want to make on this. I wear almost exactly an 8, and I'm very comfortable saying up to a 9, probably even more, but let's be safe and just say 9 and under. This is going to fit pretty much everybody, with a lot of you guys taking links out. All solid link. This weighs a lot, which again is something a lot of you guys want, right? But part of the beauty of what Renato does is they can build these big, graceful, heavy watches, but they're balanced, so they're still really comfortable on the wrist. So 50 millimeter. The dial has this really cool folded fan that radiates out from the center. The dial is done in this rich gray. I almost want to call it a putty gray. I know that may be an odd way for some of you thinking that, you know, how I describe the color, but it is accurate. It's actually very dark and very elegant looking, frankly. It does have the applied markers, both hands, which are semi-skeletonized hands, and the markers have luminous material applied. The one exception is the 8. The 8 is actually done in a mirror polished, either a charcoal or a black against the dark gray. Again, a nice accent, a contrasting accent, which is really cool. The crystal is mineral. It's a lens, it is domed. It's very much a lens shape. It is also anti-reflective coated and sapphire coated. So again, you're going to have the durability that is the mineral, but at the same time, you've got the coating that is the sapphire. And the reason that you want that is the sapphire coating is going to, for those of you who don't know, brings a bit more scratch resistancy and frankly a bit of prestige into it. But the mineral, the underlay, the core of this remains very durable, which is obviously something that you're going to want. Exhibition back also features the same heavy mineral crystal build, and you want the exhibition back. You'll notice that I haven't mentioned an exhibition on any of the others during the show, but frankly they haven't had them. And the reason that this one does is that is where you're seeing the custom decorated 2824. Now, for those of you who don't know, that is a Swiss automatic. I think it's one of the most important that was brought out in the 20th century, now obviously into the 21st. This one, again, custom decorated for Renato. It is 25 jewel and built, of course, by Swiss at Valjoux. And you're going to find this movement, by way of comparison, routinely in watches that list for thousands of dollars. I mean, this one alone is $17.95, but there's some, depending on brand, that use it to go for higher than that. At $299, as I stated earlier, this is for a 28. You could put, I'll put it to you like this. You could take a 2824, put it in some generic brand without this weight, without the solid link bracelet, with a gorgeous dual deployment clasp, by the way, and take away the name and the power of Renato and all, take all that away. If I could just say it's some generic but decent watch and it's got a Swiss at a 2824 in it, and it's $299, shipping included, you should be all over that. But this is a Renato with that large, heavy bracelet, all solid link, that legendary case that is, of course, as many of you know, the TRex with the dome crystal, with the textured dial. You start adding all of this up with the prestige of Renato, and then you get into the 2824. Yeah, absolutely, this is a must-own. Screw-down crown, really cool knurling, by the way, going on that piece as well. For those of you who don't know, the 2824 is a straight-ahead time of day, so you're going to get hour hand, minute hand, and then, of course, this beautiful sweep second hand moving around the watch. So many people hold out and wait for the 2824, and I understand it. It's legendary. It's more than earned the prestige and the reputation that it has in the luxury watch community. And this is the very famous 25 jewel Swiss at a 2824 50 millimeter case. Oh, and by the way, this is 300 meter water resistance. So 50% greater water resistance capability than is required as the cutoff to qualify for dive watch water resistance. And again, as you can see, that bracelet, as I mentioned earlier, very generous dual deployment. And of course, when you get to the architecture, this is the legendary TRex that I think is almost without a doubt one of the most legendary looks to date that Renato has done. So I think by the time you add all of what I've described up, you understand why I've, over the last week or so, been describing this as the must-own because frankly it is, and I want to congratulate all of you who are getting in on this. By the way, just so you guys know, it's full original packaging, and we are also very pleased to say that every Renato you pick up with TAW has the full factory warranty because we work directly with Renato, just like we do with Exoskeleton, just like we do with Watchstar. So these are not pre-owned. Now again, what is cool is that the components that have made this up, movements excluded, have been taken from the original builds, in some cases from years ago, but all done in the last couple of months. So for those of you who are fans of Renato from years back, good news, that's here, but assembled within just the last couple of months or so. So in other words, you've got the very fresh build that is the 2824, and they've of course still included the custom decoration and so on. All right, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this show up. If you have any additional questions, as always, you can hit us up at info@talkaboutwatches.com. I want to thank you guys for making this such a huge success, and please enjoy your watches. We are thrilled to be showing Renato again. The relaunch of Renato has happened, and what a way to end up with this one, man. This really is a must-own, so please enjoy it. My name is Tim. Thank you again, all of you guys, for tuning in and supporting what we do here at TAW, and we look forward in the near future to have you guys back for another edition of Talk About Watches Live. Be well, everybody.